So I'm joined here with Tim Wicksteed, who's the developer of Big Pharma. I just wanted to ask, first of all, where did the idea come from? What's the inspiration behind Big Pharma?
Sure. So I've actually wanted to make a kind of tycoon game, kind of sandbox tycoon style game for quite a long time, the idea started off as a kind of factory simulation game, heavily influenced by games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Transport Tycoon.
Yeah.
But there was something kind of missing from that kind of original premise, and one day I kind of had this light bulb moment in the shower when I just saw some empty kind of pill packets, and I just suddenly thought, whoa, wait a minute. Instead of making this like just a generic factory, let's make it about the pharmaceutical industry and make it so you're making drugs instead of washing machines. And that's when Big Pharma was born, and it's just kind of just gone from there, really.
Did you take any inspiration from Theme Hospital?
So yeah, like after I kind of, I already had these, I'm a kind of mechanics developer, based developer, so once I already had these mechanics, this kind of factory simulation with the kind of conveyor belts and machines and that sort of stuff, I started to think, well, what can we add to that that's specific to the pharmaceutical theme? Yeah. And it turns out my artist actually went off and was looking at screenshots of Theme Hospital without me even telling him to, and I only found this out like after like 6 months of development. Yeah. So yeah, it turns out it's the art style especially is hugely influenced by Theme Hospital, and I've also taken kind of a few leaves out of its book in terms of the kind of slightly larger than life, kind of wacky, kind of has a bit of sense of humour in the game, which I think everybody appreciated.
I saw on the website you sort of discussed the ethical considerations of running a pharmacy company. Are they like a big part of the game? Like, could you be punished for being greedy or be rewarded for being altruistic, or is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm trying to be quite light-handed in terms of how we portray these aspects, and I don't want anything as kind of clear-cut or as obvious as, say, like the Renegade system in Mass Effect, right? Yeah. You know, there's not going to be a bar and it's like, oh, if you're a good guy, you get extra points. If you're a bad guy, you get worse points. In fact, it might be quite good to be a bad guy, like in terms of you might make a lot of money, and it's not necessarily good and bad. The way I like to look at it is like there's certain things about the industry that kind of incentivize you to maybe make questionable decisions, because there's a weird thing that happens when you take a private company whose goal is basically to make money, just like my private company, let's face it, you know. But the thing is, when it's about healthcare, you're also talking about people's lives, and that's when it gets a little bit complicated. Also on the website, you've sort of wondered about winning and losing and what the win condition would be. Have you came to any further conclusions on that, or is it still up in the air? Yeah, I have some ideas, but until I kind of put them in, I won't know for sure if they're good ones. But I have had some more thoughts since that blog piece, and what I'm currently thinking is to stick with this kind of victory point system, where you basically you're trying to accumulate a set total of victory points to win the game, but the way you get those victory points depends, and you can kind of take different routes. So you can either go for a very financial route, where you're just kind of trying to give as big a return to your stockholders as possible and just try and make as many drugs as possible, or you can kind of complete more kind of altruistic goals, like there's an epidemic in West Africa, and you have to produce a certain number of pills to kind of stop the outbreak, and it's kind of up to you. You could do a mixture, or you could focus on one or the other, and I think that will allow people to experiment with play styles, and in the end play in a way that works for them.
So almost like the Civilization style of, you could like total domination, or like religion, or there's like just multiple ways to win, essentially.
Absolutely. I've taken loads of inspiration from Civilization, actually, but kind of what I thought would be cool to do differently is, instead of just having these 5 different win conditions which are fixed, I thought, why not let people do a mixture and say you could get your points half from total domination and half from I don't know, the scientific victory. It wouldn't work in Civilization, but I think for Big Pharma it probably does.
In terms of how close do you feel the game is to release, and are you planning a beta or an alpha or any sort of early access?
Yeah, so we're coming up to kind of release, really. There's still loads I want to get done, but we're really rapidly approaching it. What I can tell you today, which is kind of like the big news, is that we are planning a open beta at the end of April, so it's less than 2 months away, which anybody can get involved in. It's going to be completely open. Basically, the idea is you pre-order the game, you get immediate access to the beta, and then as soon as it's out on Steam, the full version, which we're aiming for kind of a summer release, kind of May, June, you get a Steam key, and that's, you obviously get a full copy of the game. Completely optional. It's for the people who want to get on board early and don't mind playing a slightly buggy version of the game, which needs some balancing. If people want to wait for the full release in the summer, that's absolutely fine too.
That's perfect. That's everything. Thanks very much for joining us, Ed.
Thank you very much for having me.